Have you ever stopped to think that maybe the universe is one giant radio broadcast? Well, today we're diving into the really fascinating, pretty unconventional theory of Georges Lakhovsky. He proposed that every living thing, from a single cell all the way up to you and me, is part of this vast cosmic symphony of vibrations. So here's our game plan for tuning into this idea. We're going to start with his core analogy, the universe as a collection of radios. Then we'll try to decode the language of vibration and uncover the secret of resonance. After that, we'll get into his grand model, this cosmic keyboard. And finally, we'll see what it all means for, tuning our own inner receiver. Okay, first things first. We have to get our heads around the central and, pretty radical idea behind Lakhovsky's entire worldview, that our very biology operates on the exact same principles as a radio. This one quote, it's the bedrock of the whole theory. The idea here is that life isn't just a bunch of chemical reactions. It's a constant, dynamic exchange of information through vibrations, a never-ending conversation. So Lakhovsky, who was a Russian-born scientist, he literally imagined a world where every single one of our cells is like a miniature radio station. It's broadcasting its own status and, at the same time, receiving signals from everything around it. Think about that, billions of cells all creating this giant cosmic information network. Now, to really get what he's talking about, let's do a super quick refresher on how a basic radio works, right? You start with a signal, like a voice. You amplify it, but it's still way too weak to go very far. So you have to mix it or modulate it with a really powerful high-frequency carrier wave before you can send it out from an antenna. Okay, now here is where Lakhovsky makes this absolutely fascinating leap. He maps that exact process onto human consciousness. He saw our thought energy as the audio signal. But just like a voice, it needs a carrier wave to be broadcast effectively. And for him, that powerful carrier wave is our will. Our focused intention is what gives our thoughts the power to actually travel.
So, if everything is a radio, what language is it speaking? Well, in Lakhovsky's model, the universal language is vibration. It all comes down to waves and their frequencies.
The key thing to understand here is that everything has a frequency. It's like a unique vibrational signature that's defined by how fast it's oscillating. So short, fast waves mean a high frequency, and long, slow waves mean a low one. Simple as that. Now this really puts his whole concept into perspective. Our senses are just these tiny little windows looking out onto an immense spectrum of vibration. What we feel as touch registers at just a handful of vibrations per second. Sound is in the thousands. But then you get to radio waves in the billions, and, according to Lakhovsky, psychic phenomena vibrating at rates so high we can't even measure them.
Okay, we understand vibrations now, but how does anything actually communicate? I mean, if there are billions of signals flying all over the place, how does a cell, or a radio for that matter, pick out the right one? The secret, the absolute key, is resonance.
Resonance is what lets a system lock on to one specific frequency in a whole sea of noise. It's like if you have two tuning forks of the exact same pitch and you strike one, the other one will start to vibrate all by itself. It completely ignores all the other sounds in the room. That's resonance.
The most common example is probably sitting in your car or your house. When you turn the dial on a radio, you're literally changing the resonant frequency of its internal circuit. And when that frequency perfectly matches the station's broadcast frequency, bam, the signal gets amplified and you hear music. And this isn't just some electrical trick, It's a universal law of physics. The classic example is why soldiers are always ordered to break step when they cross a bridge. Why? Because if their marching rhythm happens to match the bridge's natural resonant frequency, the vibrations can amplify with every single step, and they could literally bring the whole bridge down.
All right, let's see how all these pieces, the radio, the vibrations, the resonance, how they all build into Lakhovsky's grand vision, the cosmic keyboard. He imagined all of existence, everything from the densest matter to the most ethereal thought, organized on a massive keyboard that spans 80 octaves of vibration. So this keyboard, it starts with frequencies as low as just 2 vibrations per second. That's the realm of physical feeling. But then it stretches way, way up through sound and light and far beyond what our senses can detect into frequencies in the trillions.
And what he did then was divide this immense spectrum into two main categories. The lower frequencies, those correspond to the physical material world, the stuff we perceive with our five senses and process with our objective mind. But the higher frequencies, he argued, they come from an immaterial world, and we perceive them with our subjective or inner mind.
Now, this leads to a really fascinating question. How do we even access these higher frequencies? Lakhovsky's idea was that our brain acts like an electrical transformer. It takes in these imperceptibly high cosmic energies and steps them down into something our consciousness can actually process. Things like intellect, emotion, and intuition. And this is where it all comes back home to us. If we're living inside this giant symphony of vibrations, what's our role? Are we just passive listeners, or can we actually choose the music? This is the key question that the whole theory builds up to, right? If this cosmic radio is always on, always broadcasting, can we consciously change the channel? Can we actively take part in this whole process of reception? According to this framework, the main way to do this is through meditation. The practice is basically seen as a way to quiet all the noise from the lower frequency material world so that you can adjust your inner receiver to resonate with and therefore perceive these more subtle, high-frequency signals. And this just brings us to the brain's incredible dual role in this whole model. It's not just a passive receiver, not at all. It's also a powerful transmitter, broadcasting our own thoughts, powered by our will, right back out into the cosmos. It's a two-way street.
So we'll end with this thought. Whether you look at Lakhovsky's work as speculative science or maybe a profound philosophy, it poses a seriously provocative question. It challenges us to think about consciousness not as something that just happens inside our skulls, but as an active dialogue with the universe. And if you could truly attune your mind, what new realities might you begin to perceive?